Good evening, all. As I share this story, and as I even remembered the details to share with you today, my eyes welled up in tears. And so, if my eyes do glisten or my voice does break in between, it's just because no amount of practice can remove the raw emotion felt as this happened. It is not sad, it just tugs at your heart. My family traveled to Sydney, Australia in September 2014. Me and my boys, my husband, and two sons, aged 6 and a bit years and 23 months. I don't remember the exact occasion, but I do remember my cousin giving both our boys a red car each, a Lightning McQueen, which were favorites for both of them for a long time. They were of different sizes. Gordon and Kevin had them in different sizes. There was no doubt of which one was which. Gordon had the bigger one, Kevin had the smaller one. Our first home in Sydney had a beautiful view. Our balcony faced this huge park with a kids' playground and lots of trees where cockatoos would come and rest rather noisily. It was safe for the children to play at the balcony, and so we permitted that. One day, it so happened that while they played with their cars, one of the cars, Kevin's red car, fell through the small gap and on the rooftop of perhaps a shop on the ground floor, and perhaps outside an apartment, we didn't know. It was then that we realized that perhaps because of some security design, we could not figure out which floor of the building this was at and which apartment. I know you are probably thinking that it's perhaps a bit of logic that we could have used, or we were a bit lazy, but believe me, we tried. We could not figure out how to reach this house, which was pretty close to the ground floor. Perhaps because he, my 2-year-old, thought that he could not do much, as it was his mistake, and we seemed totally helpless to get it back. He moved on. Frankly, I don't remember his reaction at that time. What I'm going to share next is what is fixed to my memory. A few days or perhaps weeks later, one warm weekend, we were standing at the balcony, looking at the park and admiring the view, when I realized that a man was getting out of that balcony of sorts, more like climbing out, and picked up the toy car. We got excited. What a coincidence! I happened to be there and could catch him and, stop him as he was getting it. I immediately called out, excuse me, that's my son's car. It fell from here, da-da-da," and I explained that entire story. In the few seconds that I could from the top. You can imagine that. He realized that we were telling the truth, since there was no other way that it could have landed outside their home. I asked them for their apartment number and asked them which floor and all those details. And so if you were now wondering whether it was a logical way of reaching, I will say no. It was a different entrance that I did not know about, that residents, I thought, use except maybe just for emergency. So just to bring that out. Anyway, we took Kev, obviously knowing he was excited, and went to collect the car. The man handed it over. They didn't seem to be very fluent in English. He gave the car to us and we were off our way. In a second, we could hear the cry of a young child in that home. Seemed to be younger than Kevin, we don't know, but we went back home. As soon as we reached home, my husband started talking to Kevin. What he asked Kevin next broke my heart. As parents, we follow the principle of not arguing in front of our children. We resolve our difference of opinion in private and give out a single decision in any matter. In this case, he, my husband, realized that I would not object to what he did next. My husband asked Kev if he heard the voice of a baby crying. Looks like the baby saw the car and his or her dad jumped over whatever wall was there to get it for the child. And as soon as they got it, they lost it. My husband did not explain all this to my 2-year-old. He proceeded to ask him, though, if he, Kevin, was willing to give that car away. His precious toy, a beloved gift, to a child that he does not know. My eyes filled then. We both, as parents, knew that we would not force him to do something that he didn't want to. It was for us as parents to understand his character, not judging him whatsoever. He kept quiet, thought about it, and then nodded his head. We confirmed whether he actually was okay to give the car away. He said yes. And so we went back to that house, knocked on the door. The man opened the door. We gave him the car without much of an explanation, and we came off. If there was anyone crying, it was me. Kevin had made his choice to give to someone who needed it more. Yes, it was rightfully his, it was rightfully Kevin's. But in the choice between being right and being kind, he chose to be kind. This is not the end of the story. In the months that followed, Kevin's love of cars grew. He never had a lack of it. He gave away one of his cars that he cherished and loved. He got so many cars beyond this incident that it was difficult to contain it in our apartment. What you saw here, what I narrated here, was the father's heart. Not compelling, not judging, and yet giving the child the opportunity to introspect and make the choice to give what's his to someone else who seemed to have more need than himself. What you saw here was the father's heart, not compelling, not judging, and yet giving the child the opportunity to inspect and make the choice to give what's his to someone else who seemed to have more need than himself. Secondly, you see a father who made it the choice of the child, but had the ability to give that and even more to his child, much to his heart's content and more. To me, the relationship of a child and father is the perfect picture of how God the Father sees each of us. It is the heart of the Father, an overflow of his love that causes us to see the suffering of people around us and help them in their time of need. And if you have ever given from what he has given you to someone else, in his abundance, he will give you that and much more. I hope this story of our family blesses you. Creating this video, this memory now remains etched not just in our minds, but also online and available to be accessed by anyone at any time. I hope it blessed you as much as it did creating this for you. God bless you all. Until next time.